Today's First Alert afternoon weather update is brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.
Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips here. We are going to be talking about our temperatures that are going to be warming up. We'll also have an update on radar as we do have the chance for some freezing drizzle today. And we're also going to be talking about the potential First Alert weather day on Friday as we are going to be watching for a refreeze. So there's a lot to talk about. As we take a live look though outside, you are going to find some varying conditions throughout mid-Michigan because some of us, we do have some sunshine, others do have some clouds. And we can kind of pick up both here on our camera here in Southern Bay County. As we take a check across US 10, you'll see that drivers really having no issues regarding the weather. So we are going to be looking at a pretty good afternoon for folks who are driving around. But if you are going to be traveling north, you may find that we do have a little bit of a different setup. I'm going to go to that sky tracker because we do have the chance for some freezing drizzle. We've been talking about this yesterday. Even at lunchtime, I was checking in, and in Houghton Lake, we did find that our sensor there at the airport was reporting fog and mist throughout the morning. And so we don't have that currently. We actually have overcast skies. That's what's showing on the sensor. But when we have that fog and mist and temperatures that are below freezing, that's when we can find that we do have that freezing drizzle chance, because as kind of freezing drizzle works is that you have that lighter rain that falls, it hits cooler surfaces, and then it starts to glaze over. So that's kind of the science behind freezing rain and freezing drizzle, how both of those work. But we do have a little bit of pink that is showing up here on radar. You're going to find that that boundary is closer towards northern lower. The reflectivity not really holding together all that well. We haven't seen a ton of action here for the northern portions of mid-Michigan, including Roscommon, Ogama, Iosco counties. But we also are going to just kind of keep in mind that here in northern Clare, Gladwin, and Aranac counties, we may still have that drizzle chance. Now, we still find that we have more precipitation off towards our west, and as that boundary starts to sink a little bit, that's where we run the chance of that coming into mid-Michigan. So that's what we're watching for today. Our sensor, again, not showing that we do have any of that drizzle going on, but we have seen that earlier this morning. So that possibility is still there, where we do have just enough dry air to where we haven't quite reached full saturation yet for us to have any of that mist and drizzle. But it's something that we can kind of see on our sky tracker. You may also be able to pick it up on that First Alert weather app. I have the QR code right here that if you don't have it, you can give that a scan to get that downloaded. But we will find that really our chances of us seeing that we do have freezing drizzle in the Tri-Cities is very, very low. And it's about a 0% chance coming into the vehicle city. Now, I am going to be watching for Huron County, just kind of here into the outer bay. We may have just enough moisture to where we could have some of that drizzle trying to sink further south. You can see just a little bit of pink here out into the outer bay trying to get going. So again, we may find that that line kind of sits here and coming across Huron County, reaching down into Bad Axe, and then coming up towards about Standish, getting closer towards Gladwin, and then kind of continuing further north. So if you're in Clare, northern portions of Clare County, I think have a better chance than actually the town of Clare for us to be seeing that drizzle. If you're in Midland, Bay City, Saginaw, it's going to be borderline. I think a lot of us, though, are going to be in good shape regarding that drizzle. But maybe it's going to be a basketball night for you, and you're going to be traveling up to play some of our schools that are located a little bit further north. If we don't have that drizzle, then the games will be on, but just kind of keep an eye here. It is kind of the territory with winter sports is that we may find that some of those games might maybe be postponed. So just check in with school districts to kind of see how everything is looking here for after school activities. When I'm looking at the after school forecast, a lot of us are just kind of working between those partly to mostly cloudy skies, kind of going back and forth between the cloud cover. Again, our northern zones are seeing a little more cloud cover and watching for that freezing drizzle. Temperatures are starting to warm up. We're going to today try to get them into the lower 30s. Southwest winds kind of helping and the sunshine to get us there, but we have that warm air that's starting to flow in. And that's why with these warmer temperatures coming on why we are seeing that mix. It's always hard to go from frozen to liquid and liquid to frozen. So as we do that phase change, sometimes we get caught in the middle and we get stuck with a little bit of icing. But if you're picking up the kids today after school, still I would recommend coats. 30s, that's still cold, below freezing is. So make sure that it's a good afternoon, but still keep the winter clothes on. Our temperatures right now, we're only seeing a handful of 30s. We are at 32 degrees, the freezing point for Flint, Lapeer. We are at 30 degrees in Cara. We have 24 in Tawas, 25 in Oscoda and Port Hope. We are at 29 in Saginaw, 28 in Midland and Bay City, 28 in West Branch, and 27 in Houghton Lake. We are at 27 in Alma and Clare as well. So again, a lot of us are into those upper 20s. We're starting to switch over to those 30s. We still have about 3 more hours of daylight and about 2 hours truly that might be able to help us to get these numbers up. So we still have some time to bring a little more heat into the forecast. It's still a little bit breezy today. Those southwest winds, though, maybe a little bit lighter than yesterday when we were checking in here, but we are finding those hovering around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Of course, a little bit stronger on that northern shoreline. You can see Tawas and Oscoda getting those winds up towards 15 to 20 miles per hour. But that southwest wind is kind of that big driver to help to bring in some of those more mild conditions. Well, mild considering what we've had lately with the 20s and below average numbers. It's still winter after all. It's not going to be like we're talking a spring forecast here in the next 7 days or even for quite a while. The wind chills also, though, are rebounding. You'll still find that those are lagging behind the air temperature. So when you check your car thermometer and you see that it says potentially 29, 30, 31 degrees, that it is still going to be feeling cooler outside. So that's why we still recommend the winter clothes. It's kind of a given. It's December after all. So we are finding, though, that our wind chills in Saginaw are around 19, 24 in Flint. It feels like it's 17 in West Branch and Houghton Lake. Same for Bad Axe. It feels like it's about 10 degrees here in Tawas City and Oscoda, and it feels like about 13 for Harbor Beach, and it feels about 16 in Alma. So we are finding that it still feels like winter outside. Now, before we get into the hour-by-hour forecast, I do want to take a real quick break. We're going to kind of regroup and then also talk about the potential of that refreeze that we have coming up later this week. So stay tuned. That's all coming your way in 60 seconds. All right, we are back, just kind of keeping an eye to things to make sure that we are rolling smoothly here this afternoon. But getting right back into the forecast, the hour-by-hour conditions for us for the next couple of hours, you can see here kind of that divide and varying conditions. The further north you are, you have the cloud cover. Further south, you have better chances at seeing some of that sunshine. I'm actually going to go, in case you are joining us from further north and you're not seeing that sun, here is a good look at it. We still have some cirrus clouds that are kind of hanging around there, kind of blocking out some of that sunshine, but it's still pretty bright outside. That snow also helps. Don't forget your sunglasses if you do have the sunshine, because it's going to be extra bright, very reflective for you. So take care of your eyes, but a beautiful afternoon nonetheless. So we will find that where we do have that little bit better chance of some cloud cover, that's actually where we also run that freezing drizzle chance. So we are going to find that we still have some pink that's trying to show up along that boundary into northern lower, but that can still come into mid-Michigan here. So again, we are going to be watching even through the evening commute. So if you're maybe traveling north tonight on 75, just keep an eye that you still can have some of those changing road conditions. But we are going to see that as we go later into the evening that boundary will slip past. I still am going to keep about a 10% chance that we have at least a few flurries in the Wednesday forecast, but it's just enough to where we're not going to really mention it on the 7-day forecast. But you can see that as we go throughout the day on Wednesday, there's just a little bit of lake effect that tries to hover around. It's nothing that's really going to get out of control, very much something that's just going to kind of go on by while you're at work, and you're really not going to notice it. So for the evening commute, no issues getting home, and even the morning commute won't have a problem getting out the door either. So nothing that's really going to throw off your routine on Wednesday, because we're going to be keeping it mainly dry. We'll have the cloudy skies and some lake effect that we'll just monitor for, but overall, again, very low impact there. The cloud cover builds as we go into Thursday morning. It is dry to start the day, so this is good news because I do have rainfall in the forecast, but we are going to find that it is dry for us as we go throughout the morning, even here at 7 o'clock. You can see not too much happening. Even at 8 o'clock, oh, we're starting to see a little bit of green showing up, but not too much action here in mid-Michigan. So we'll start to see those showers starting to arrive mid-morning. And then those are going to continue to kind of hang around and fill in for us even as we get into the lunch hour. So we could have some bursts that are a little bit heavier on the rain, but overall this is just going to be rain. It will be warm enough to where nothing frozen is expected as the rain comes down Thursday afternoon. So that's going to still be hanging around this system as we go into our evening plans. So if you maybe have a Christmas party Thursday night, you are going to want to have your rain jacket when you go to those events. Now, you will see that there is a little bit of blue that comes in behind it. We have that snow that's trying to set up there along 131 into Grand Rapids. I'm watching this going into the evening because we do have some cold air that's going to be possible on the backside. It tries to fall apart a little bit with some of that drier air settling in. I didn't want to go that fast, but as that kind of eats away at that, we will then start to transition to see some lake effect going into Friday morning. Something to kind of keep in mind here, though, is that's when we're going to be watching for that flash freeze. So we're really going to be watching those numbers pretty closely here. But some of the first alert details that we need to watch for, again, today we are monitoring for that flash, or not flash freeze, but just the freezing drizzle. Lots of ice in the forecast to stay on top of. But we could just run into a light glazing that can slow our roadways down this evening. So kind of keep that in mind. I'm hoping that if we do have it, it's a very brief period. So far, we haven't seen too much of that activity, and we're okay with that. I'd much rather have to not deal with icy roadways, and I think a lot of you would agree on that. But it is still a possibility that is on the table. If it doesn't work out, I think we're all okay with a missed forecast there. When we look at temperatures, though, still today we're going to kind of get right around that freezing mark just to reach into the lower 30s. It's been a while since we've been there. Well, we did see them last week, but really not for a long period of time. And it's not like this warm up is going to be all that long either. We're going to be above freezing going into the mid 30s on Wednesday. Even though we have the dry day, we're still seeing that warm up. And then we have 40s by Thursday. So we have that southwest flow that's coming in. It's going to be bringing in the warm air, warm enough to where that's our rainy day. So think about this. We have that rainfall that's going to be falling into our snowpack. We have temperatures in the 40s. A lot of that snow is going to start to disappear. So we'll be watching closely to see how that all works out. I don't anticipate really flooding concerns because we don't have a large amount of rain coming through. And even with the snowpack and the rain, we are still dry from about a year ago. So we should be able to kind of take and absorb still some of that water. I know that the ground is frozen, but still flooding concerns do not look to be all that strong. Of course, we could have some ice on some of the rivers and creeks that gets a little jammed. So of course, kind of watch out for those conditions, especially if you live towards some water areas. But overall, we don't really see enough to have any flooding concerns going into Thursday. What we're really monitoring for, though, is by Friday morning, we really have temperatures that are crashing. They're falling down into the 20s, so we just can't maintain that heat. And so as that cold air comes in behind the cold front on Thursday night going into Friday morning, it's really going to depend on what time does that rainfall end and how fast does the cold air come in behind it, because that's where we're going to be watching for the potential of that first alert weather day. So on Friday, we are discussing and really kind of monitoring as a team the possibility of needing a first alert weather day, because the whole idea of these first alert weather days is that they, one, allow you and your family to prepare when weather could impact your daily routine. So even though we might issue that a little bit ahead of time, we mainly want you to be able to go and use that to your advantage, to where when your routine is thrown off, you've already maybe had some additional plans in place to where you're not really thrown off all that much. So that's what we are watching for Friday. We right now at this time still are not totally convinced that we need that first alert weather day, because we really want to have a little more data and we want to get some of that near-term sampling in the numbers to where we can see what time that rainfall stops, how heavy the rain's going to be, if it's going to be lighter, and then also seeing when that cold air comes in, because as those temperatures drop, we would like to have our road crews, of course, start salting for us so that we can get around. But the thing is, if the rain's coming down too heavy and they start applying salt ahead of time, it just washes away and it's not really going to be beneficial for anybody. So what road crews are really going to be watching for is not only what time the rain leaves, but if the rain is a little bit lighter on the backside, to where then they can go and get that salt down before everything starts to freeze back up. So we really kind of have a small window where we could have a very good outcome, to where if we can get that salt down, that'll make the commute a little bit easier on Friday. But That's a really small window to work in. So that's why we want you just kind of keeping an eye to that Friday forecast, because it makes sense. We have all this water, we have rainfall, we have snow melt, temperatures fall, that makes ice. So that's why we are watching that refreeze potential. So kind of the basics are there for it, but there are a couple of opportunities to where we can kind of be proactive and maybe have a little bit of an easier start Friday morning. Of course, road crews may not be able to get to every side street, every residential road, or even some of maybe the dirt roads. So that could be a little bit slippery going into Friday morning if roadways are untreated. So still know that we are monitoring the first alert weather day possibility for Friday. But that's the reasoning why is, one, we want you to be prepared. Two, we anticipate that your roadways could be a little bit slower on Friday morning. And that is all dependent on the weather. Again, it's dependent on what time the rain ends, if it's light rain on the back side of it, and how fast that cold air comes in behind it. So those are kind of the three big factors that we are still monitoring in the forecast before we really lock down that decision. So I'm glad you all joined us at the First Alert Desk, because you're getting that behind the scenes lingo of what we're watching and what it goes into the process of going and issuing these First Alert weather days. And just another quick update on the ice in the Bay. We are still seeing a lot of that fast ice stretching from Seaboy coming in closer towards Bay City. So though we have seen some good ice coverage over creeks, rivers, and even out into the outer bay, with it warming up, the ice is no longer going to be safe. And with southwest winds, any of that broken ice can kind of get pushed further out into the outer bay. So make sure that you are cautious. Probably going to need to avoid the ice here until we can get some more cold air in, but just kind of a quick update. Another update is the ski slopes. Yesterday we were talking about Mount Holly kind of getting an early jump here on the season this year compared to last year. So here's a look at some of the ski resorts. I updated this here just before hour 2 o'clock. So it looks like Mount Holly and Boyne also using those snow guns for creating snow. A lot of the resorts have a good base here. You're going to see that Mount Holly has anywhere from 6 to 16 inches for a base. Crystal Mountain has 40 to 52 inches of a base. They had posted that they were very thankful for the weekend snow because they picked up a little bit more in the Traverse area. So that's why their base is a little bit heavier. Pine Knob has a base anywhere, depending on their slopes, around 16 to 40 inches. So a lot of the lifts are open. I know when I was talking to Mount Holly, when I was asking them kind of how they go determining which lifts are open, they said a lot of it is really kind of based on demand. So if you want to have more slopes that are out there, make sure you and your friends get out there so that they can get more of the runs that are opened up. So overall, though, it's been a pretty healthy start to the ski season. I also saw that Mount Brighton has opened, so they have a base of about 33 inches. So a lot of their lifts are open as well. So of course, we're going to kind of keep an eye on this ski report here through the next couple of months. So you can catch that on TV5 Wake Up. You can also catch that on our sister station at 10 o'clock. Chris will have that a few days. And of course, occasionally we'll be highlighting it here at the First Alert Desk. As we wrap up this afternoon, that 7-day First Alert forecast has those temperatures warming up. Again, we're going to be getting into the 30s and eventually the 40s by Thursday. That's when we are going to start to see that rainfall come in. I don't want, though, everybody to kind of forget. We do have that freezing drizzle. We're going to be watching that here as our temperatures warm. But then as the numbers crash, we have that potential refreeze on Friday morning. So that's what we would be watching for on the First Alert weather day. Also, cold air comes in behind it. So that means that the Great Lakes are going to be open for lake effect snow showers. So we'll be tracking those for your Friday and Saturday. But it looks like we have a couple of dry days as the beginning of winter starts. Of course, we have the winter solstice in the 9 o'clock hour on Sunday. And then actually I looked on Monday, we gained 2 seconds of daylight. So if you notice it, you'll notice it. But it's going to be some slow gains here on our daylight as we go through the later half of December. But of course, you can always check out the 7-day forecast in the First Alert Weather app. Pull that up here for you, as that is free to download from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. So that's a great tool to have to kind of stay on top of everything, considering we do have that possibility for that First Alert weather day on Friday. So make sure you have that app up and running on your phone and get those push alerts. I know it seems like we push a lot of stuff out there, but we want to make sure that you have all the latest resources and kind of in the know, staying in and on top of that weather forecast. So it's always a great tool to have. But thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon. I appreciate you giving up a few minutes of your time. We will be back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock for your afternoon live stream. And also Chris is going to be here tonight at 9 o'clock for the evening live stream. So make sure you don't miss that. Of course, you can watch us at WNEM.com and on the TV5 News app. app. You can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube, the WNEM pages, those accounts. And then also, if you're streaming, which a lot of us are these days, make sure that you have the TV5 WNEM app on your Roku, Fire Stick, Android, or Apple TV. If you use any of those devices, you can get TV5 for free right on there. So you don't want to be missing out on connecting with us to get the latest news, weather, and sports. But again, thank you so much for hanging out with me this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us. Today's stream has been brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.